Thank you for being here. This is Fan First, Artist Led. We're going to be talking about how artists can build meaningful relationships with fans and actually make money doing so. I'm Kristen Owen. I'm the co-founder and president of an event discovery platform called Do Stuff. There's a good chance you haven't heard of us in North Carolina because we don't exist here yet, unfortunately, but we're behind Do 512 in Austin, Do 312 in Chicago, and 20 other markets across North America. We started Do Stuff because we were fans, and we wanted to make it easier for ourselves, really, and for others to find good live music in the cities that we're in. So I am very excited to be here and have this conversation with these three founders. I will do introductions, but feel free to add or change if I get anything wrong, since I'm kind of ad-libbing. For years, artists and fans have operated inside systems designed by middlemen, streaming platforms, ticketing platforms, etc. They often take more than they give. These three founders are building solutions that flip that dynamic, helping artists connect with fans in ways that are more authentic and sustainable. All right, this I gotta just read. Mag Rodriguez, well, in the middle, sorry. I should have gone in order, but here we are. Founder and CEO of Even, the first and only superfan platform eligible to report sales to the charts. After helping artists generate over 1 billion streams across traditional platforms, Mag recognized that creators needed to own their fan relationships, not just rent them. Today, Even partners with major distributors and labels while empowering millions of artists to unlock new revenue streams and build more meaningful connections with their audiences. Yeah, I really went backwards. Here we go.
You just need ChatGPT to just tell everybody what's going on.
Tommy Stalknect, did I get that right?
Close enough.
All right. All right. Is the founder and CEO of Single, the leading direct-to-fan platform built for Shopify. Since launching in 2018, Single has redefined how artists connect with fans by enabling them to sell more music, merch, video, and memberships directly. Under Tommy's leadership, Single has powered over 5 million digital album sales, reported 16 million album sales to Billboard, and hosted live stream events for millions of viewers worldwide. And last but not least, Neil Sheehan has spent over 25 years as an entrepreneur in the independent music business, running artist management firms, studios, concert promotions, and record labels for gold and platinum selling acts. He is now president of Vocana, an artist-centric music platform that pays user-centric royalties, returns listener data to artists, and integrates full social media tools to help creators connect directly with their audiences and earn more from their music.
Stealing that from my LinkedIn. Thank you.
ChatGPT edited it for me. It's true. I said make them all the same length. The panel description says that the music industry is stacked against the very people it relies on most. For each of you, really, what's the specific problem each of you saw that made you think, I need to build something to fix this? Start with you, Tommy.
So the idea for the company came actually in 2015. So I was working at a merch company. For people who don't know, oftentimes artist teams, once they get to a certain level, they're not managing their own storefronts. It's not like Adele runs her own store. So I was working for one of those companies, and they had shifted to Shopify, which at the time a lot of people didn't know what it was or it was growing. And I saw the opportunity in building basically solutions for the merch company that I was working for, but releasing it as a product that any artist could use. So the goal being that you could be an independent artist or a major label artist, and you would use the same tech stack, basically. So now largely what we do is very behind the scenes. We just integrate where the artist is already selling, so that way we can kind of fill in the gaps with now the second largest e-commerce platform in the world. So we have the privilege of working with thousands of artist stores, just all behind the scenes inside of it. But our goal is basically to, like I said, fill in those gaps, but empower artists to be able to do it all direct, with their owned data, owned brand, all that kind of stuff, just by kind of staying behind the scenes.
I started off as a manager 14 years ago. So I was a producer turned manager, did that for about 8 years, and then I started working in venture capital, which was a very random transition, but I was working at the venture fund, working with artists and managers, and then music tech startups. And probably the most challenging thing that it was like an aha moment, I should say. The metric of success has really changed in the last 10 years. 10 years ago, the metric of success was ending up on Spotify, and this is really when we saw the emergence of like the TuneCores, DistroKids, CD Babies of the world really like grow and expand, where distribution was basically available to you as a artist. 5 years ago, we saw a big shift where it was about playlist. I wanted to be on Rap Caviar, New Music Friday, etc. And then now in 2025, the metric of success is, are you even making money from your music? And for us to, really build that out, we identified that making money as an artist is really difficult. Launching a D2C store costs money, right? You need to work with a designer, a team to help implement your store. And a lot of times artists just don't even have those resources because they're not making any money from their music at that point in time. So Even's initial mission was, how can we make D2C truly accessible for artists at every stage and allow them to grow within a platform instead of out of a platform? And now we can confidently say that we serve all the way up to global superstars down to emerging artists. Just walking in this morning, I met an artist who came up to me and was like, hey, I released my album on Even last year, and I made a couple $1,000s. Right after we spoke, I looked up at his Spotify, and he has less than 1,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. So being able to see that impact is truly why we built Even. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, Vocana started 4 years ago. I, as our moderator eloquently put it, I've been in the business for a while. Had a management firm, a record label, and the 4 pain points I saw, especially for independent artists. We are an independent streaming platform. One was fair pay, right? So if you all use Spotify, I'm assuming you do, or Deezer or Tidal, they pay out pro rata, right? So your $10 subscription goes into this large pie, and whether you listen to the artist or not, MGK, Drake, or Taylor Swift is going to take the largest part of that pie. So we wanted to fix that problem, which is using user-centric payments. So your $10 subscription, whoever you listen to, your royalties go to those people that you listen to instead of just this big, large pie. The second problem we wanted to fix was data. Most of you who, if you are artists, get your royalty reports, but you never know who you have listening to you. You may get a heat map if you're lucky. We give back first-person data, so email addresses of everybody that listens to you. You have their profile, you can contact them, etc. The third was kind of the unfair competition that they were talking about on playlisting. We only use independent distributors, so CD Baby, DistroKid, etc. So anytime you do get on a playlist, or anytime somebody listens to you, it's almost pure discovery. You're not, again, competing with Taylor Swift, MGK, or Drake. And then last problem that we were trying to solve was music's kind of become fairly boring. You put Spotify on, you go do TikTok and Instagram. There used to be a really cool platform called MySpace where an artist had a profile, a fan had a profile, and there was a streaming platform on it, and it created this kind of flywheel effect. So we thought, let's solve those 4 problems and see how artists and fans react.
Thank you. My follow-up question to that, which you kind of just touched on, but for those who aren't familiar, for Vocana, like, what is the fan experience like when someone is using the platform?
Yeah, if you are old school, like myself, and remember MySpace, like I said, the fan experience is essentially you have a profile. Most of you probably have a profile on Spotify, but you don't really use it or use it for community building. On Vocana, you do. Essentially, you have your profile. You can put in your top 8. We brought back top 8, if you remember that from the MySpace days. You can show all your releases. You can show your music collection, but then you can also converse by DM or in your feed or short-form video with artists, etc. So it's basically creating a community without having to go to an artist link tree to go see all of their places you need to go. It's just one place, and the fan can stay there with the band.
And then, like, for you guys, walk us through what it's like if you're an independent artist using each of your platforms. Like, what problem are you solving for them more specifically?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like the user journey, when we think about like the main pain point, we always think of on the fan side, it's if I give you $100, it's almost impossible for you to give that to your favorite artist. And again, like that's primarily like in the emerging self-releasing DIY artists. So the way that it works, an artist uploads an album to Even anywhere between 7 to 30 days ahead of the wide release. So most of our releases are going live anywhere between 7 to 30 days. And fans can pay to listen to that music early. So think of us like the movie theater premiere for an album, a single, if Spotify was Netflix. And then, of course, like we have now a growing number of artists that are only releasing using Even and not going to streaming platforms. And then, of course, for the bigger artists, it's really about that proximity to your favorite artist, but then also the community element where you can engage and interact with other fans that love the same artist, and then also the artist as well.
So we're kind of more built as like a Swiss Army knife kind of thing. It's more like a toolkit. So when I say we plug in the gaps of Shopify, like one of the bigger things that we did during even the pandemic era, and we still do some of it now, but turning their storefront into the same place where they could also monetize content, right? So you can go to the artist's website, web store, whichever we're gonna call it, and the merchandise is there, the music is there, the access to content is there. We're building in community tools and things like that into those same places. So largely we're trying to turn the storefront into the hub. So mainly the way that I kind of explain it to people is success in commerce or e-commerce is it's a 3-number equation. It's page views, average order value, and conversion rate. So artists have the benefits of people wanting to go and find them, and so the idea of having everything in one place gives them the opportunity to have more success because they're driving people to where they can also convert to buy something. So if they're going to look for tour dates, you can also have your t-shirt there, or you can have a piece of content or something like that. So what does it look like in terms of the fan side of things? Ideally, they don't know that we exist. Like that, my goal is we build the tool set so that way artists and their teams have the ability to do all of these things direct, but with no branding of my company whatsoever.
So then, question for you two. Given there's all these other major platforms that people are already using, how are y'all building audience and getting people there?
I didn't know who you looked at. Me?
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. How are we building ours?
your own audience, yeah.
Well, look, again, we are an indie-only streaming social platform, so a little bit different than what these guys do. So we are not a direct competition with Spotify, Deezer, or Tidal. I use those. I would never not use those because those are major. You're going to listen to your major label artists. This is more niche communities, right? So if you're a Bandcamp person or you're truly into the heavy metal scene or a version of hip-hop, et cetera, you could come here, and that's how we would build those communities kind of siloed. But the whole platform itself, you can find any kind of genre yourself. So we're not competing against those guys. We have 40 million tracks from all the independent distributors, but essentially we will market. We just went out to private beta or public beta 8 weeks ago. We're essentially marketing to different genres in different cities at this point and building up community that way.
With even our main customer, or essentially, yeah, our customer is labels and distributors. So we partner with labels and distributors, and then they onboard their artists to the platform. And then from there, the artists are then promoting to their audience. So very rarely do we even tell, like it's not a part of our messaging to tell an artist to go tell their audience, buy my album on Even. It's just buy the art from me before you get it anywhere else. And it's a link in bio. So it's artists going essentially and telling their audience. Like I think if you want to experience Even, you can go to J. Cole's Instagram, and the link in his bio is what Even is powering. So sometimes it's branded by Even, sometimes it's fully custom. It just really depends on the artist if they want to live inside of the Even ecosystem or if they want to live on their own standalone site.
Thank you. Tommy, we were just talking about this a bit backstage, back there, I don't know what to call it. With merch, how does that go, or what are you doing to make that go from something that is like a real fan connection beyond just a revenue stream?
So, if I'm understanding the question, it's like how do we help them increase those sales, or
Or how are you using merch as a tool, really?
Well, the way that I look at it is you're incentivizing people to buy your higher margin items, which are your t-shirts and things like that, by using content and other stuff in order to drive that traffic. So a good example for U2, they had a re-release of vinyl, and they were reissuing a bunch of t-shirts from 30 years ago for Zooropa. And so they wanted to go out, how are they gonna market it? They don't wanna say, hey, come buy the record that you probably already own, or come buy something. Because buy is not always the best messaging. So what we put together for them was the ability to do a simulcast. They have different storefronts for rights and all that kind of stuff, but so this isn't necessary for everybody. We set it up to where they had, across their different storefronts, they had the same stream going with a unified chat that showed the country flags of everybody, and so they did a remaster audio of a VHS from 1993, and so the marketing became, hey, come relive the special from 1993, 30 years ago, and oh, by the way, we've reissued the vinyl and the t-shirts. And they sold through all of the inventory, but the pitch wasn't come buy t-shirts. So the way that I look at how do you tie the things together, like a lot of the stuff that we're working on is how do we incentivize people to buy more merchandise at shows? So we're working on services and products around that kind of stuff. It really all comes down to how are you tying these things together and providing incentives for fans to support you, basically.
Let's talk about money. How are y'all thinking about monetization in terms of like making it work for artist fans and then also for y'all's own businesses? I guess start with you, Mag.
Yeah, I think, well, the biggest piece, even is free to use. It doesn't matter if you're, Jesse Reyes or an emerging new DIY artist. The fee structure is the same. We only make money when artists make money. And a core part of what we do is these high margin digital sales. We believe that music shouldn't be free, especially new music should not be free. And the biggest opportunity in music is the global south. We're talking about there's 5.5 billion people on the internet today. There's only 700 million people on streaming platforms. And that growth has officially hit a ceiling. But if you don't support M-Pesa, no fan in Kenya can buy your album. If you don't support Pix, no one in Brazil can buy anything from you. And we think about logistics, when we think about physical merch, logistics is still fairly nascent. Try shipping a vinyl from here to Indonesia, it's almost impossible, and it's very expensive. Even Taylor Swift, arguably the biggest artist on the planet, her store is only available in 6 countries. There's a massive opportunity to sell content, sell music directly to fans that want to be a part of a community, and even offers that infrastructure for artists and labels to be able to do it. So for us, the biggest opportunity is we go to partners and we tell them, hey, we have a new opportunity for revenue that you are not capturing. You're leaving money on the table. And it's essentially a zero risk opportunity for our partners. And that's why we've been able to get the traction that we get. But I think the most beautiful part is like the everyday artist can take advantage of the tool as well. Especially in an era where there's conscious consumerism being like a core part of the everyday life. There's a reason why there's a local coffee shop here and not Starbucks. People will go and spend money when they feel like they know where their money is going. So it's a core part of how we operate and also how we help our artists go out into their community and say, hey, streaming isn't going to pay me that much, but you have an opportunity to put money in my pocket.
Yeah, just echo what Mag said. Like for Vocana, it's 2 pieces, right? We're trying to get artists paid, and we're trying to allow fans to put their money where the artists are. So I don't know. I always throw this question out on panels. Does anybody know how many streams it takes to make minimum wage on Spotify? Anybody take a guess? 5 million is the number. Do you know how much it takes to make $100 on Spotify? How many streams? 25,000. Now, let me take you a step back. 99.8% of artists, all 11 million artists on Spotify, don't make minimum wage. 99.8%. So our goal is to monetize these artists, right? Your subscription dollars as a fan, $10, should go to these artists. So even if you only have 10 people listening to you, and you've paid a whole $10 subscription to listen to all the music, if you're listening to 10 artists, at least that artist is getting $1 right away, right? It's not micro pennies. So that's our way to try to remonetize the streaming world. Obviously, it's an anathema to Spotify, who literally hates the user-centric system because it doesn't help the major label system. So that's one way we're trying to monetize, at least on the artist side of things. For fans, we're not trying to really monetize the fan. We're trying to give them a place where their subscription dollars go to essentially go, as Mag said, to people that really deserve the money, right? Instead of if you're listening to your 5 favorite indie artists, your subscription dollars are only going to Taylor Swift. So that's how we kind of look at the monetization. As a company, how we monetize is we're subscription-based. So right now it's free. You can join our public beta, but at some point we will have a subscription fee, just like any other streaming service. But again, your subscription dollars will go to the artists you listen to versus this big pro rata.
Tommy, well, I'll probably ask all of y'all this, but do you have an example of like an artist on your platform that has done something just exceptionally interesting or well or unique in building community? And
I think, well, the U2 one's a good example. The stuff that we're working on right now, Many people don't necessarily know this, but there's one of the more common point of sale systems that on the road is a company called AdVenue. So we're working with them to kind of unify the data that people are getting from their e-com and what's happening at the shows. And the way that we do that is by incentivizing fans to basically giving them discounts and free things when they're buying merch. So that way, it's kind of like you go to Kroger, you put in your phone number, that kind of system. So the idea there is we can give fans extra, I'll kind of take a step back. This is what I was saying backstage. The challenge is that we as an industry have three main pillars where we make money. It's recorded music, tickets, and merchandise. Any other business, in any industry, you're trying to determine what is the LTV, what's the lifetime value of your customer. And so right now, ticket doesn't give you any data, streaming doesn't give you any data, and then on the merchandise side of things, 80% of your sales are happening at shows. That's completely anonymous. And so that means of all of the ways that we'd make money, you have 6.6% of the data required to determine the LTV of your customer, which in any other industry would be insane. So we are just trying to say twofold, solve two problems. One, provide great fan experience. So Flatland Calvary is a group that is one of the first ones we have out on the road right now. So the experience for them is, hey, you're part of, they run their fan club with us. If you're in that fan club and you come to the show, you will also get 10% off. And it's free to join their fan club. So basically, they're just collecting email addresses, and now they're giving more incentives to those fans, and obviously there's the community aspect of it. But the idea is that they're trying to tie everything that they're doing online with everything that they're doing on the road. And then that solves the business problem that they have of when they do that, now we can say that Tommy came to the show because Ticketmaster wouldn't tell me that Tommy came to the show anyway. So it's an end road around of trying to figure out this stuff, so it kind of solves the two problems. So for us, it kind of goes to the question of saying, like, what are the cool things? We're trying to use cool activations as a way for these artists to actually know who their fans are and monetize those people.
Thank you. I guess same question, really on your platform or off, since I know we have a lot of artists in the audience, like what are some of the more innovative or interesting things that you've seen artists do?
I mean, I'll think of just one that just happened yesterday that the team was really excited about. We did a release with this artist. Her name's Lauren Jareggi, and she released a new single on the platform. And the way that Even works is it starts with the music, but fans stay for everything else. So that could be a community chat. That can be a custom album intro. It can be a physical item of merch. Artists are really in full control of what they can offer. She had 4 tiers. The minimum for the album in the US, or for the single, I'm sorry, was $5. And the minimum in Brazil, which is her second biggest market, was like the equivalent to about $2. We offer regional pricing, so you can set your pricing based on the country where the fans live. I think there was about 20 markets that she focused on. The single is now sold in over 70 countries and over 60 currencies. And these are all just high margin digital sales. But the biggest offering was if you paid over $75, you got a custom shout out from Lauren Jareggi. And that's really what fans are paying for. So there's fans in, I think we have fans in like South Africa, Mexico, Colombia, Japan, all these fans from around the world paying $75. These are markets where the monthly subscription to streaming is like the equivalent to about $4 to $5. And they're paying, you know, a lot more than the monthly subscription just for one song and a custom shout out. And, you know, but we also have artists like LaRusso who just sold, I think like $200,000 tickets to his backyard show. And, you know, we have artists like that that come to Even, and there's I'm blinking out on his name, and I want to remember his name so bad. It's this artist out of Nashville, Starlito. He notoriously sells Even albums on Even for $100 minimum, and the reason why he sells them for $100 is if you buy his album, he'll call you. So people start buying his album, and this guy's made a killing on Even, but he just picks up the phone as you buy an album, and he starts calling fans. If they don't pick up, he's not calling you again, but he'll leave you a voicemail. And it's all over social media where fans are just like, oh my God, Starlito calling me, but I was at work. And, you know, but I think that offers that opportunity to do that. But yeah.
I thought that was a lot of time doing shout outs, but phone calls is something. Anything to add there?
Look, we launched, like I said, 8 weeks ago. we have already heard from several artists that they get more streams on our platform than they have ever had on Spotify already. And we only have about 400 or 500 people floating around in there as we just launched. So that's pretty crazy to me that some artists are already getting a few hundred streams that they've never even had on Spotify, and they've been on there with their albums for years. So it just shows that if you kind of strip away sometimes the major label, the competition on there, and you serve up independent playlists, and people are sharing music, that a lot of discovery goes on between fans and artists between artists. And there's not a lot of red tape in the way that people are trying to keep the DIY and indie bands down on the major label services of streaming.
What about the reverse of this? Like, what are some of the bigger or more common pitfalls that you see artists fall into trying to build their own communities?
What is the saying? It's like a playlist isn't a marketing plan kind of thing. So you have so much competition when it comes to attention, and really what it is like you have to get creative in telling people that your stuff exists. And so the reason why even like Taylor Swift, even when she was starting, talking about the MySpace side of things, that was where she was cultivating her fans at the beginning and doing stuff like you guys are doing, where they're calling fans and stuff. Those are the types of things that you need to do early and often and continuously through your career, so that way you, like you said, you can have somebody that's then going on social and saying, hey, they do this. So then the fans will start marketing it themselves. So a pitfall is you can't just put out a record and expect somebody to go find it. There's 100,000 songs that are uploaded to Spotify every day. So you do have to put in the work in terms of marketing it on that side of things. And then the other pitfall too, I think what kind of our companies are both trying to help artists solve for is you leave a lot of money on the table by just giving these things away to companies that are going to monetize it. Google, you putting it on YouTube, all that kind of stuff, when you have the opportunity to use the first eyeballs, and the first eyeballs can either pay you for access to it or at least give you an email for it. So the pitfall would be you give up too much too early, you don't collect the data to know who your fans are, even getting an email like address so you can market to that person later. It's just giving yourself a good foundation and a nice cadence of how you're distributing your stuff to where you're getting the most value out of it, rather than just giving all of the value to a company that doesn't care whether or not you're successful.
I think the biggest mistake that we see, and I mean, I spend so much of my time just talking about this, is there's a lot of like radical thinking happening right now in every industry. And I think in music, it's like very anti-Spotify, anti-streaming. And the truth is, like, Spotify's not going anywhere. They're the category king in streaming, and they will be probably for the foreseeable future. And that's why it's not supposed to be even or streaming, the same way where it shouldn't be even or single or Vocana. It should be all of them. You know, when people reach out to us about, well, what's the difference between even and Bandcamp? It's like the difference is you should be on both of them, and you should be selling on both of them, and then you can really gauge how you can engage with your audience from there. And I think that's really the biggest opportunity that we have in music right now, is there's so many tools and they're all readily available. You know, before single, if you wanted to have a true D2C store, you had to have a label that had money to build infrastructure to do all of these things. And now Shopify offers you the opportunity to do that. And I think, you know, the same way with Even, right? We can set up these storefronts and go live. I think you should be taking advantage of every single tool and resource. And if you are an artist or a manager or an executive, that's literally your job. And it's your only job. It's what's out there, how can I use it, and make sure that if it's something that makes sense for me and for my audience and for my fans. But I think the biggest mistake people are making is feeling like they have to choose one and stick to it, and then the pride gets in the way. Like, you are not gonna hurt my feelings if you use another platform. Like, you should 100% go and try it out, because ultimately it's your career. And us four on stage, we have the blessing of the opportunity that we don't just have one career, right? We work with hundreds and thousands of different creators and teams, but if you are an artist manager, you have one career, and you should really be maximizing and trying everything that's available to you. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, look, they said it best. The only other thing I would say is I think I think the industry has made artists stretch themselves too thin. Kind of like I said, when you now have to send everybody to a link tree because you have to now update 40 different pages and send them to a bunch of different stuff. That's not your fault. It's just a pitfall of the industry, which I think sucks. Again, another reason to come to Vocana, shameless plug, that they can all do it in one place. But I think that's the biggest pitfall. Secondly is artists get scammed, right? Playlist promotions and those things. Really look at these companies that you're willing to put your hard-earned dollars into. Remember, to make minimum wage, you gotta have 5 million streams. To make $100, you have to have 25,000 streams. So if you're paying a playlist promoter to get you on some random bullshit editorialized playlist that he's talking about for $500, and you're not gonna recoup $100 out of that with 25,000 streams, why would you even do that, right? It's better to build your own local fan base and try to use those communities like these guys do, where you can sell a $1,000 ticket to your backyard show. That's fucking crazy. Like, if you can do that versus trying to like pay money to get on a Spotify promotion paid list and get 0.003 cents.
So in addition to throwing your own backyard show, since we're here in Charlotte, do any of y'all have any other specific advice for artists trying to build community outside of the majors like New York, LA, Nashville?
I go back to when I was a manager. I managed for about 9 years, and it was always what I kind of just said here: build up locally, but thank everybody. If you get booked at a venue, thank them. If you know the biggest band in town that's a local, go thank them, talk to them. If you know a local manager, take him out to get coffee. Network. The biggest thing that an artist can do, either even trying to get in the industry as a manager or an artist, is take people out, meet them, and say thank you. Because you never know where they're going to go up in their career or where you're going to go down in your career, and you may need them. So I always think on the local scene, find the people that are doing good in that local scene and meet them, find out what they're doing, and thank them.
I tell people play shows. The amount of competition that you have online, even if you're playing to a room of 2 people, and be 2 and then 4, and then it can kind of go up from there. But I think more and more over time, as you can tell, the vast majority of revenue is generated through the live side of things now. And so if you aren't honing your skills on putting on a good performance live, then you are missing the opportunity that's where you're going to largely make your money into the future. So I just tell teams, I'm like, yeah, go, if you're just starting out, the simplest thing, go start playing music live publicly. And I think also with like the AI stuff, which is a whole different conversation, that will become even more important because of the authenticity around it. We do not need to go down that pathway. But point being is that, like, I just think, yeah, play live.
I would just say really focus on what's happening in the world globally. When we think about global audiences, 7 to 10 years ago, it's really hard to estimate, but like the number was, there was less than 1 billion people on the internet, and now there's 5.5 billion people on the internet. There's a massive opportunity to promote yourself globally, and everyone's been trying to squeeze the Western markets as much as they can, right? The US, Canada, Europe, but there's a whole massive audience of fans around the world that love the music that you make, and promoting in these markets, it's a lot easier. I mean, you talk about $100 on a playlist, $100 promoting in Brazil, India, Mexico, like that can really stretch out and you can get in front of a lot of people. So it's a really massive opportunity. I get it, you want to be popular, you want to be famous in your city and in your region, but sometimes the easiest way is go looking where other people aren't looking. So yeah, I would say really focus on global, especially in the early stages.
Yeah, I just want to echo that for a second, because the one thing you have to look at is, somebody told me this, I can't remember, it was a mentor of mine at some point, it said you got to go where the party's at. And so if you're in a specific genre, say if you're in metal or something, Japan, Germany, those are huge markets, so it's worth to promote there than try to promote in your backyard if you're from a country western town, right? So he made a great point, is find out where your audience could be and then go promote there, versus maybe just trying to figure out to build a community in your backyard when that community's not even there. It'll take you a lot longer.
I could be mistaken, but I think that we are at the question phase, yeah?
Question for Mag. Hey, man. One thing that I know about you and what you're doing that I didn't hear you covering here. Can you let them know how an artist has to come to you? Like, they can't just come as an independent, right? They have to come through a channel. So can you explain that to them?
Yeah, so we work with labels and distributors. We have over 3,000 labels and distributors that use the platform. And the best way to get access to the platform is just reaching out to your distributor or label. But yeah, I think part of the reason why we do that is, you know, copyright is really important. And making sure that the content that ends up on a platform needs to be verified by a partner. So it's the easiest way, especially in the era of AI. It's really important to make sure that, you know, you authenticate the content that's showing up to a platform. But yeah.
Hey, thank you guys for being here. So I think each of you have super innovative platforms, and I'm really curious to know about it. Could you share an example of a time that either an artist came to you with an idea that was not something that was a part of your platform or product that you said, okay, let me figure that out and see if we can add that function, or customers/fans were asking for something that you weren't providing that you were able to sort of react to and build into your product or platform?
I've literally done that 4 times. In the first one was obviously the reporting on the Shopify side. Then we had Dashboard Confessional wanted to do a live stream on the pandemic. So this was a week after lockdown. Then we were like, well, okay, so I built out a prototype of doing a ticketed live stream inside of a Shopify store in 3 days, and that weekend we had a Dashboard Confessional concert. So then we baked that into the platform. Then a year later, we were doing the album release for Kings of Leon, and they did a NFT release, and I was like, what the fuck is an NFT? And then so then we hit up Shopify, and they're like, actually, we're building out APIs to be able to do blockchain stuff. So then we added in blockchain, it didn't obviously pan out, but we used it in the terms of using token gated access to content and stuff. So that was another one. And then going back to like solving the business problem, that's why we started going down the path of the in-venue data collection side of things, because the merch teams and labels that we work with were basically saying, like, I still have this black hole that is that side of things. So pretty much like Single's entire roadmap is always based off of people telling us, like, hey, will you build that? And I'm like, sure, if it's interesting to me, I'll probably end up building it.
Yeah.
Yeah, quickly, I believe the same thing as Tommy. You got to listen to your customers or the artist, whomever, and try to make a product that fits that. If not, you're talking in an echo chamber. So one thing we quickly learned was, while we were trying to kind of create the experience of MySpace with a band having a profile and a fan and a streaming platform, we also found people really like Substack and Reddit and these kind of communities. So we built a small section called Hubs, where it's a private community within a profile page. So if I'm the band Dashboard Confessional, they won't be on ours, they're not independent, but they could also build a hub within there that's private, and they could do it by city, or they could just do their own private hub inside. So that was one thing that we found that a bunch of the artists really liked, to kind of silo some information so the feed wasn't always constantly open to everybody. They would have to actually join this hub as well.
I have a question for you. If somebody goes from indie to major, do you kick them off?
Well, look, I get this question very often. It's the first question. What is independent is the first question I get. Independent is subjective to the person. I always say, we look at it very differently in terms of, when we say we're independent, we only work with independent distributors that have no major label affiliation. So DistroKid, CD Baby, Symphonic, etc. Now, that being said, some of these indie-only distributors like Downtown are being purchased by major labels. Now, if a major label, if an independent artist got on our platform and then was signed by a major label, would I want them off? I personally wouldn't want them off. The major label may ask them to take that off if they're buying that certain master, right? If it's a release prior to them being on the major label, it would probably stay there. And if that independent artist has blown up on our platform, knock on wood, to get that major label deal, why would they leave? Obviously, they made money and they're getting data. I would think they would stay. So no, I wouldn't kick them off. But if legally their record label or somebody said they had to come off, we would take them off. Yes.
That feeds into, this is why you work with platforms that tell you who your audience is. So if that does happen, you still at least have the list.
Any more questions for each other?
I have something to say. Hello, everyone. Tamaine Robbins, and I don't have a question, but I wanted to speak regarding, I guess, the comment that was made on MAG. I've had the pleasure of using Even. A lot of my artist friends use Even, and it is a great platform, and I'm pretty sure you don't need this because the tool speaks for itself. But I'm someone, I was able to make around $700 on Even, but I had fans who didn't want to download Even, but the idea of the pay what you want model made them pay me directly, and so I made like $2,500 extra off of that. So like the idea around the platform and like Mag, his brains is amazing. So I want to make sure I speak to that because this is a great guy right here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Just real quick to echo on that. Good on you for the way you reacted to that, and then Neil and Tommy, good on y'all for backing that up. That's we can't control what dumb shit is said, but we can control how we react to it, and it's a key component of emotional intelligence. So kudos to y'all for that.
I think Steve Jobs said it best. Somebody had criticized him in this huge forum, and he goes, "That's the only thing you ever heard bad about me? There's so much more." And it just shut the whole room up. But go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. But my question is more just your thoughts around, you talked a lot about, this whole thing is direct to fan, right? And the monetization and are we making any money, right? And I'm a huge proponent of that. And any artist that I work with, it's great to have front end numbers, right? But if those front end numbers can't convert, which is what we're talking about, we don't have the data, we can't convert them, it doesn't mean much. And so in y'all's experience and what you're doing, mainly in the independent space, I think a lot of artists are still very caught up in the vanity metric, if you will, and I'll give it its due where it is. It can open a door and get a conversation going. You walk through that door and you don't have conversions, the conversation's over. So how do you, in working with artists at that level, in the platforms that you're building, help kind of get them on the line of thinking that you're on? Because I think that's a key component to just long-term sustainability for these artists. And so just curious, the conversations you're having, or if you're seeing something different, as far as a roadblock in working with people in that way.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is like influence moves faster with volume. I think, I remember, and I'm sure they experienced this before as well, it's building something new is really difficult, and getting people to say yes. I think I did a couple hundred meetings to get our first artist on the platform. And then the next two were a little bit less hard. The next 100, a little bit less hard, but it was still hard. But after we broke the more than 1,000 artists using the platform, it became easier and easier and easier. But as easy as it became for us to be able to do it, it also became easier for other artists to do it. And I think, we love seeing that moment where an artist says, I decided to go to Even because I saw my favorite artist on Even. And then creating that cycle where, more and more artists can release. But it does require that, right? And it's timing, it's market opportunity, it's, people feeling comfortable. I think the artist sentiment is at an all-time low right now when we think about just streaming economics. So I think it's just, really important for, folks like us to be doing the work that we're doing in the space because, the artists need it. Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for having us.
y'all.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.